Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're starting with a specific spiritual observance, Ananda Marga's Mahaprayan Divas. That's the Great Departure Day. But we're really using that as a kind of launch pad. We want to explore one of the most, demanding concepts of divine intervention we've really encountered here. Our sources take us pretty deep into the philosophy around the founder of the movement, Shrii Shrii Anandamurti. You might also know his civil name, Prabhat Ranjan Sarkar. And this annual day, it's commemorated on October 21st. It marks his physical passing, which was back in 1990.
Exactly. And our mission here, it's really to go beyond just remembrance. We
Yeah.
really need to unpack the spiritual framework that kind of holds up Ananda Marga, the path of bliss, and understand why this organization sees its purpose as this eternal fight against injustice. Because that purpose, it's completely rooted in who they believe their founder was. Specifically, this very formalized concept they call Táraka Brahma.
Táraka Brahma. Yeah, the name itself sounds, significant, huge even. Before we dive into the criteria and, the details, maybe let's set the scene a bit. This observance, Mahaprayan Divas, what does it actually look like? Feel like? You said it's not simple mourning.
Oh, definitely not mourning in the usual sense, not sorrowful. The scale of it alone tells you something. The main site is the memorial at the Tiljala Ashram in Kolkata. But this event draws thousands of followers, Mardis they're called, and they come from everywhere, all around the globe.
Wow.
So yeah, it's not just a local thing. It's a global pilgrimage really focused on remembrance, sure, but also reflection and deepening their spiritual connection to him, their Gurudev.
Okay, so if you have people traveling that far from all over, the practices themselves must be pretty intense, right? What actually defines the gathering? What do they do?
Oh, it's characterized by some really rigorous collective spiritual effort. You got collective sádhaná, which is intense group meditation. But often the centerpiece, the real core of it, is the Akhaṇḍa Kiirtan.
Akhaṇḍa Kiirtan.
Yeah.
Continuous devotional singing.
That's it, continuous.
Yeah.
And we're not talking an hour or two. The sources mention programs that stretch over multiple days. Sometimes, get this, up to 6 days of nonstop kirtan.
6 days, continuously.
Continuously. Imagine thousands of people singing together, day and night, for almost a week.
The energy must be incredible.
It's meant to be a complete immersion. It's designed, really, to reconnect devotees to the energy and the mission of the founder.
That kind of deep, sustained spiritual effort, it really only makes sense if the figure they're commemorating is seen as truly, uniquely important.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Shrii Shrii Anandamurti himself, born 1921, passed in 1990. The sources describe him as a spiritual leader, a philosopher, a social reformer, but within the tradition, he's held as much more than just a conventional guru. He's placed in the lineage of figures like Shiva and Krishna.
And that lineage is absolutely key. He's seen as having this clear, necessary, almost monumental purpose. His mission wasn't simply teaching philosophy. It was guiding humanity towards peace, morality, universal welfare. Basically, a complete restoration of Dharma.
Dharma, the righteous order.
Right. And doing this through boundless love and service. It's a huge undertaking described there.
And this need for restoration, this crisis, is that what brings us to the designation Táraka Brahma? I mean, if he's already considered a great personality, a Mahapurusha, why this extra special title? What makes this type of divine intervention distinct?
That's the crucial question. Táraka Brahma isn't just another title. It's a specific philosophical designation. It's used when the moral crisis on Earth reaches a particular level, an existential level, you could say. It signifies a necessary descent of the divine, a kind of spiritual warrior, maybe, who intervenes to reset the moral compass of the world. This figure doesn't just pop down because things are a bit messy, It's when there's a dharma, too much sin, making it genuinely hard for good, virtuous people to even exist, to live properly. The criteria for his arrival are quite severe. Dharma must be in decline, adharma gaining the upper hand. The pious are being tortured, the good are tyrannized by the dishonest. And this is critical. The human intellect itself is being guided along degraded and destructive channels.
Wait, hang on, that last point. The human intellect guided along degraded and destructive channels. Why is the state of human thought not just actions, but thought itself? Why is that a prerequisite? That seems profound.
It is fascinating, isn't it? It suggests the core problem isn't just, say, individual bad actions, but a kind of systemic intellectual corruption. In this philosophy, if the very ways we acquire knowledge, process information, our technologies, our social systems, our logic, if those are fundamentally flawed or pushing us towards destruction,
then humanity can't fix itself from within.
there seems to be the implication. If the channels of thought are degraded, then an external corrective force becomes necessary. And that's why the mission gets defined so strongly. Launching a ceaseless fight against all injustice and sin. It's about restoring that intellectual and moral compass.
Okay, that really clarifies the scale of the crisis he's supposed to address. It's deep, systemic. So, to make sure followers correctly identify this specific necessary intervention, this Táraka Brahma, the philosophy lays out a kind of checklist. 5 specific criteria you mentioned that distinguish Táraka Brahma from other great spiritual figures, other Mahapurusas.
Exactly, 5 points. And these are absolutely central to understanding Anandamurti's legacy and the commitment you see in the Margais.
Let's go through them. What's the first one?
Right. First criterion is unique origin. He himself is a born guru. He requires no spiritual guru in this lifetime. He's inherently self-realized.
Okay, that immediately sets him apart. Most spiritual traditions emphasize a lineage, a teacher. If he doesn't need a guru, what's the practical implication of that? Does it mean his knowledge is entirely, original, self-sourced?
It implies his knowledge and his spiritual authority are, innate, complete upon arrival, non-transferable almost. He is the source for this specific intervention. He starts the lineage for this era rather than just continuing one. And that unique origin, it lends weight to the second point, divine purpose. He doesn't just come to teach generally. He arrives with a very specific, immediate mission, which is the wholesale restoration of morality and Dharma throughout society. It's a targeted mission.
Okay, unique origin, defined purpose. What's third?
The third criterion speaks directly to the impact of that mission. Societal division. His presence, his teachings, they are so profound and, frankly, challenging to the existing order that society itself inherently splits because of him. The sources say the entire society becomes divided between moralists and immoralists.
Wow, that's a colossal claim. The entire society splits into 2 camps, moralists versus immoralists, and this leads to an inevitable fight, the sources say.
What kind of fight are we talking about here? Is it purely philosophical, or is it more of a social active struggle, maybe against, institutionalized injustice? Well, given the mission, restoring Dharma against tyranny, injustice, degraded thinking, it really points towards an active, principled struggle. It's like an ideological war that becomes manifest. It means social reform, resistance against exploitation, challenging those destructive channels of thought we talked about. The idea is that the middle ground vanishes. People are forced, essentially, to choose a side based on fundamental moral principles.
That sounds intense, but is there an outcome predicted?
Yes. The philosophical assurance is that even though this struggle is inevitable, maybe even painful, Dharma ultimately comes out victorious.
So the restoration is guaranteed, even if it requires this societal division and fight?
That's the understanding. And this struggle, this victory, it leads right into the fourth point, the new era. His emergence is what signals and actually facilitates a new era, an era of white peace, they call it, and renewed Dharma. He's the catalyst for a whole new righteous chapter for humanity.
Okay, so we have unique origin, defined purpose, societal division leading to victory, and ushering in a new era. 4 really strong points. The 5th one, though, I think you mentioned this one, tells us a lot about the philosophy's emphasis on leadership, on setting an example.
It really does. It's quite distinct.
Yeah.
The 5th criterion is exemplary practice. The point is, he needs no sadhana, no spiritual practice like meditation or kirtan for his own spiritual advancement. He's already complete self-realized, remember?
Right, from point 1.
Exactly. Yet, he performs these practices. He does meditation, he joins the kirtan publicly with the masses, and he does it purely to set an example for others.
Well, it's a paradox, isn't it? Why is the public performance of something he doesn't personally need so crucial to the mission? Seems almost counterintuitive for someone fully realized.
I think it shows that his entire descent, his entire purpose there, is for the benefit of the followers, for humanity. Imagine if a spiritual master just, stood back and said, look, I'm enlightened, I don't need to practice, but you lot do. It creates a distance, right?
Yeah.
Definitely, a separation.
But by participating, by doing the collective sádhaná with everyone else, he models the path. He demonstrates that discipline, that practice, is the universal way to grow spiritually no matter where you start from. It's about building a practical, actionable movement, not just handing down some abstract wisdom. The example is the teaching in a very real way.
That makes sense. Leading from the front, quite literally. And so bringing this all back around, the intensity we talked about at the start, the huge global turnout for Mahaprayan Divas, the days of continuous Kirtan, it's all rooted in this core belief that Shrii Anandamurti fulfilled these 5 very specific, very demanding criteria, that he was, in their understanding, Táraka Brahma.
Precisely. That's the underpinning for everything. So Mahaprayan Divas isn't really about mourning a death in the past. It's much more about reflecting on the immense responsibility that followers believe was left behind. It's like a recommitment ceremony.
A recommitment to that eternal mission, that ceaseless struggle against adharma, against injustice in all its forms, which they believe he defined and initiated.
So looking back at everything we've discussed, what really stands out for you, the listener, tuning in? We've explored this pretty radical idea of society needing to be split, almost forced into moral clarity, and this concept of a divine being modeling spiritual practices they don't need purely for others. It's a whole system built on, well, profound discipline, but also very active engagement with the world's problems.
And maybe, if we pull back one last time, think about the foundation for all this, the prerequisite for Táraka Brahma's arrival.
Yeah.
It happens when the human intellect is guided along degraded and destructive channels. That initial trigger point, it feels intensely relevant, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, it prompts a question for you to consider, right? What specific elements of our current world think about, I don't know, the way political discourse works now, or the algorithms shaping what news you see, or even just how technology demands our constant attention? Could any of those things, seen through this specific philosophical lens, be considered examples of the intellect being guided along degraded and destructive channels? Might they signal, in this framework, a decline of Dharma that would necessitate some kind of major moral intervention? It gives you a really focused, if challenging, way to analyze the state of the world today.